It was Christmas morning in Pasadena. The tree glowed, the fireplace crackled, and I, Rebecca Miller, 31 years old, stood smiling, sipping coffee, pretending everything was normal. But inside, I was imploding. My younger sister Ashley was sitting cross-legged in her Christmas pajamas, giggling while Mom filmed her with her phone. "Open it," Mom squealed, handing her a small silver box. Ashley tore into it. Inside was a single, gleaming brass key on a house-shaped keychain. My heart stopped. "Ashley," Dad said, tears in his eyes, "it's yours. The condo in Hollywood Hills, the one you loved." Ashley gasped, covered her mouth. "No freaking way." I smiled politely, even clapped, because what else can you do when your baby sister is handed a $500,000 condo like it's a scented candle? "What?" I asked lightly. "Did Santa max out his credit line this year?" Dad chuckled, avoiding my eyes. "We've been planning this a long time. You'll understand someday." That line, that damn line, it hit me like a punch in the chest. Again, every time they gave Ashley their everything and left me in the corner with a polite, "We're proud of you." That was their excuse. "You'll understand someday," it had become their code for, "Ashley's struggles matter more than your stability." But they had no idea. They didn't know that while they were out buying her a condo, I was bailing them out of foreclosure. They didn't know I had used nearly my entire 401k and sold stock to save the very house we were sitting in from being taken by the bank. And I hadn't said a word, not yet. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, this year they would finally see me. I was wrong, and I know I'm not the only one who's ever felt like the invisible child in their own family. If you've been there, if you've ever had to swallow your pride while watching someone else get all the praise, drop a comment. Let's talk about it. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever been the one who did the right thing and still got left behind. Growing up, the contrast between Ashley and me was always the joke. One that stopped being funny somewhere around high school. Ashley was the whimsical one, the free spirit. She dyed her hair purple in 10th grade and wrote poetry on napkins. She dropped out of art school twice and still got standing ovations at Thanksgiving for her bravery. Me, I was the planner. The honor roll AP class, full scholarship girl. I went to law school straight from undergrad and became an associate at a top firm in downtown San Diego. By 31, I had my own condo, a 6-figure salary, and no debt. But somehow, in our family, Ashley's chaos was romantic, and my stability was invisible. "You don't need help, honey. You're doing amazing," Mom would say with a proud smile that felt more like a period than a celebration. They always said I had everything. And yes, on paper, I did. But emotionally, I was bankrupt. They called me independent, like it was a reason to stop checking in. And when Ashley called crying because a roommate bailed or a boyfriend cheated or her art show got canceled, they dropped everything. I remember once, I got a huge win at work, landed a major client that helped save a department from layoffs. I called Dad, so proud, and all he said was, "That's great, sweetheart. Hey, your sister's really struggling right now." So I learned to keep things to myself. I stopped expecting them to be excited for me. I stopped trying to share, but this Christmas I had broken my own rule. I had hoped, stupidly, 2 months before, I'd found foreclosure letters in their office while helping Mom look for old photo albums. That house, our house, was weeks away from being taken, so I acted. Quietly, methodically. I liquidated my investments, paid the bank, transferred the deed into a family trust. It took phone calls, meetings, and a hit to my own financial future, but I saved it. Because that's what the independent daughter does. She fixes things. She doesn't ask for recognition. She just wants to matter. I wrapped the deed in a gold box with a burgundy ribbon, Dad's favorite colors, and put it under the tree. I imagined the look on his face when he opened it, when he realized that I'd saved everything. Instead, I watched him cry over Ashley's condo keys. And in that moment, I realized in their eyes, I wasn't the daughter who needed love. I was the one expected to give it endlessly. I didn't plan to discover the foreclosure letters. It happened by accident. Like most things that change everything. I was home one weekend in October, helping Mom dig through boxes in the garage, looking for old photo albums for a family memory wall she wanted to make. We were laughing, dusty and nostalgic, when I saw a manila envelope tucked behind an old tool chest. Curious, I opened it. Final notice. Default. Auction date. All in my father's name. Our childhood home, where Ashley and I learned to ride bikes and fought over bunk beds, was 60 days away from being gone. I froze. I didn't confront them. I didn't yell, didn't ask why they hadn't told me. I just sat with it. For 2 days after returning to San Diego, I couldn't focus. The thought of them quietly losing everything while I budgeted for a vacation made me sick. So, I made a choice. I called the bank. I called a financial advisor, I ran projections, reviewed my investments, and realized that if I liquidated my stock options and dipped into my 401s, I could save the house. Barely. It wasn't a smart move financially, it wrecked my near-term goals. But this wasn't a spreadsheet. This was home. I made the payment anonymously through a trust and had the paperwork transferred. I arranged to send the physical documents later. On Christmas morning, I thought maybe, just maybe, this act of love would speak louder than any degree, job title, or polished apartment ever had. But then Christmas Eve came. Ashley was already there when I arrived. She looked like a holiday magazine cover, messy bun, red plaid pajamas, a mug of cocoa in hand. She laughed easily, talked about some exciting project she was working on. Dad's eyes lit up. Mom kept interrupting my updates about work to ask if Ashley needed new canvases. Dinner was uneventful, at least from the outside. Inside, I was watching my family in a different light. Watching my dad check his phone constantly, watching Ashley whisper with Mom. Watching the tension build. That night, I lay awake in my old bedroom, staring at the ceiling stars I had glued there in 7th grade. They were going to tell her tomorrow, I realized. Not me. Her. I knew it in my bones. Christmas morning came with frost and cinnamon rolls. I dressed nicely. Red sweater, black slacks, tried to look cheerful. But my hands shook when I held my coffee. Ashley got the first gift. A small box, silver wrapping. She squealed as she opened it. Saw the key and read the engraving. Adam's family home. I blinked. Wait. That's what I had called the trust account on the paperwork I filed. But this wasn't my gift. This wasn't the family home. This was a new condo, a fresh start. A new legacy, given to her. And once again, I was on the outside of the story. The reliable daughter, the steady hand, the silent sacrifice. She needs this. Dad said, his voice full of emotion. You have your apartment. Your career. Ashley needs a foundation. I looked down at my untouched coffee, the gold box still under the tree. No one had opened it yet. And suddenly, it felt less like a gift and more like a challenge. Would they celebrate it, or would it feel like a slap? Would they see me? Or just move on? I didn't know, but I was about to find out. The living room was lit by the soft twinkle of Christmas lights and the smell of cinnamon rolls and pine needles. But everything felt off. Like I was watching a holiday movie where I didn't belong in the cast. Ashley was glowing. That key clutched in her hand like a golden ticket. The condo on Fairfax. Dad said. The one you loved. It's yours, Ash. You're serious. She whispered, eyes wide, tears welling. You bought it. We've been saving. Mom added, her voice trembling. We just wanted you to have a space where you could create freely. They pulled her into a hug. All three of them in a perfect little emotional snow globe. And me, I sat frozen on the armchair by the window, coffee gone cold, hands gripping my knees to stay still. Ashley had a house. I had cookware. That's what they'd given me. A high-end set of stainless steel pots and pans. Because you mentioned wanting to cook more. I nodded and thanked them like it wasn't a slap in the face. And the worst part, I almost convinced myself it was fine. Until Dad used the phrase again. You'll understand someday. Like it was holy, like it excused everything. They said Ashley needed help. That I had everything. That this was about fairness. But what they didn't know, what they hadn't even bothered to ask, was that I was struggling too. That I had given up more than they would ever know. I looked at the gift still under the tree. The gold, wrapped box with the deed inside. This was the moment. I cleared my throat. There's one more, I said, gesturing to the box. That one's for you, Dad. He blinked, surprised. Oh, I thought we were done. Not quite. He opened it slowly. careful, meticulous, as always. But when he saw the papers inside, the blood drained from his face. He pulled out the letter on top, mortgage satisfaction notice paid in full. Silence. Mom leaned in. Robert? What is that? Ashley set her key down. What's going on? I answered. It's the mortgage to this house. I paid it off. Another silence. Heavier this time, cracking at the edges. You what? Dad's voice was gravel. In October, I found the foreclosure letters. I called the bank. I handled it. Yo, you saved the house, Mom whispered. I nodded. I used my savings. Sold stock. Took a loan against my 41. It wasn't easy, but this house, our house, it mattered. Ashley looked stunned. I had no idea. No one did, I said softly. Because no one ever asks. Dad finally spoke, voice rough. Rebecca, why didn't you come to us first? Would you have let me? I asked. Or would you have told me I didn't need to worry? That you'd figure it out? He looked down. Well, didn't want to burden you. But you were willing to burden Ashley. That question hung in the air like smoke. Because suddenly, everything was clear. The house wasn't a gift. It was a plan. A backup plan. For them. You weren't just giving her a place to live, I said. You were planning to move in with her. No. Mom protested. Well, not exactly. Just until we got back on our feet. Ashley's face twisted. Wait. What? You were going to live with me. You bought me a house so I could house you. It was temporary, Dad muttered. Ashley stood up. So the house wasn't really for me. It was for you. And just like that, the snow globe shattered. The perfect Christmas moment dissolved into confusion, betrayal, and guilt. I looked at my parents, people I had once seen as unshakable. They looked so small, so tired, so broken. I looked at Ashley, my rival, my mirror. For once, she didn't look lucky. She looked used. And for the first time in years, we were all on the same level. Imperfect, flawed, human. There was no more room for roles, no more room for silence. Just four people in a house full of secrets, finally forced to see each other. The room was quiet. Uncomfortably so. The cheerful hum of Christmas music that had been playing in the background now felt absurd, like a laugh track during a funeral. Ashley was still staring at the key in her palm like it had burned her. Dad sat back, his shoulders slumped, hands resting on the now exposed mortgage documents. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years in the past 5 minutes. So, I said, gently but firmly, are we gonna talk about this? Dad sighed. There's a lot you don't know. Clearly, I said. He took a moment, rubbed his temples. The business has been failing for years. Construction slowed down, competition went up, and when COVID hit, I lost 3 major contracts back to back. I started using retirement funds to stay afloat. Then loans. Then, nothing left. Why didn't you tell us? Ashley asked, voice shaky. I didn't want to worry you. But you were going to live with me, she said, holding up the key. We were trying to solve multiple problems at once. Mom cut in. You needed stability. We needed an exit. We thought, maybe this could work for all of us. Ashley looked crushed. You were never going to tell me, were you? Dad shook his head. We planned to ease you into it. Let you see the house as yours. Then later we'd explain. That's not easing in. She snapped. That's manipulation. And what about me? I said. You were going to let me sit here, pretend everything was fine, while you were moving out of the house I just saved. Mom finally broke. I didn't know. About the foreclosure, the house. Robert kept it all from me too. That was when another bomb dropped. I've been having health issues, Mom confessed. Severe migraines, dizziness. I've been to doctors, specialists. Tests we couldn't afford. I didn't want to scare anyone. Dad turned to her, shocked. Margaret, why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to add to your stress, she whispered. And honestly, I didn't want to admit it to myself. I sat back, stunned. Everyone in this room had been hiding something. Dad was drowning in debt. Mom was hiding a possible medical crisis. Ashley was about to be used as a lifeline. And me. I was the only one who had faced the problem directly, and I'd done it alone. Ashley stood up and walked to the fireplace, staring into the flames. I can't be the solution, she said. I can't carry you all. You're not, I said quietly. You didn't know. This wasn't your fault. But I accepted it, she said. The key. The praise. I wanted to believe I finally earned something. And now I don't even know what's real. She turned to me. Why didn't you say anything, Rebecca? About the mortgage. Because I didn't want it to be transactional. I didn't want to save the house just to make you feel guilty. I just wanted to protect it, and maybe prove I mattered too. Dad swallowed hard. You do. God, Rebecca, you do. Then why does it never feel like it? Silence. Ashley sat back down, slowly. So what happens now? Is the condo even mine? Is any of this real? No, Dad said softly. Not really, it's mortgaged. We used a loan against my life insurance for the down payment. The plan was to sell this house, before foreclosure, then move in with you and keep the new one. Mom added, we thought we could start over. Downsize, simplify. But none of that makes sense anymore, Dad finished. Because somehow you saved everything. The weight in the room was unbearable. I think we need to reset, I said. Talk honestly. Lay everything out. No more secrets. No more roles. Ashley nodded. I want that, for all of us. And for the first time that day, it felt like we were finally speaking the same language. Not the language of duty or guilt, but of truth, and maybe, just maybe, that could save more than just a house. We moved to the kitchen. It felt symbolic, leaving the stage of the living room behind, sitting now at the island counter where so many quieter conversations had happened growing up. Except this one would be nothing like the past. No pretending, no smoothing things over with cinnamon rolls. Just truth. Dad poured himself a cup of coffee with trembling hands. Mom sat down slower than usual. Ashley and I settled on opposite ends of the counter, the key and mortgage papers between us like pieces on a chessboard. Let's start with the business, I said. Dad nodded, exhaling deeply. It didn't fall apart all at once. At first, it was competition. Bigger companies bidding low, undercutting me. I lost 3 long-term clients. Then the pandemic hit, and I lost 4 months of projects. No revenue. Still paying employees. I used savings, then retirement. Then 2 business loans. It was a spiral. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. He smiled sadly. Because you're my daughter. Not my accountant. But I am good with this stuff. I could have helped. I didn't want you to see me as a failure. You're not a failure, Dad, Ashley said quietly. I felt like one. A mom reached across the table and took his hand. Ma both did. Ashley looked at Mom. What about your health? Mom gave a faint smile. Started last year. Migraines that knock me out for hours. I've fallen twice. Doctors don't know exactly what it is. They think it might be a neurological condition. I've been hiding it. Paying in cash. Scheduling appointments during your dad's work hours. Why? I whispered. Because if I said it out loud, it would be real. I swallowed the lump in my throat. We were 3 for 3 on secrets. Then Ashley spoke. I need to tell you both something too. We turned. That gallery show I mentioned. It fell through months ago. I haven't sold a single piece in almost a year. I've been working part-time at a coffee shop just to make rent. I lied because I thought that's what you expected from me. Ashley. Mom started. No, let me finish. I've been pretending. Pretending I'm making it. Pretending the art world still wants me. But I'm tired. I can't do it anymore. And the house? Dad asked gently. She took a deep breath. You need to sell it. Use the money to help yourselves. Pay off medical bills. Start over. I don't want to be the crutch anymore. But we wanted to give you something, Mom said. Then give me honesty. Ashley replied. Not houses. I was silent for a moment, then spoke. I guess I've got a confession too. I've spent my whole adult life acting like I don't need anything from you. I've let you believe I had it all under control. But really, I just didn't want to be disappointed. Mom reached for me. Honey, I'm not blaming you. I wanted to be seen. And it felt like the only way to get your attention was to either be failing like Ashley or vanish like me. Ashley looked at me, eyes glistening. You were never invisible to me. I smiled faintly. You sure acted like it sometimes. I was jealous, she admitted. Off your job. You're calm, the way people respect you. I thought if I failed enough, I'd get more love. Well, you did, I said half joking. We all laughed. It wasn't comfortable laughter. But it was real. Something had shifted. The roles were breaking. The scripts were being thrown out, and what was left were just 4 people, finally being honest. Okay, Dad said. Let's talk next steps. We pulled out notebooks. Made a list. Items to sell, people to call, health appointments to schedule, business plans to rework. I offered to go through the books with Dad, help him close down his company properly and rebuild as a contractor for hire. Ashley said she'd look into jobs where she could use her creative skills. Maybe marketing, maybe design, and the house. The condo would be sold. Our childhood home would stay. It would stay because of a quiet act of sacrifice, one that no longer needed to be hidden. We were building something new now. Not just a financial plan, but a family, based in truth. 6 months later, the kitchen looked different, not because of the cabinets or appliances. They were the same, but because of what had changed inside us. There were fresh herbs growing by the window, photos lined the hallway. Old family pictures, including a few of Ashley and me as kids, arm in arm with matching grins. Ones I hadn't seen displayed in years. Mom was at the stove, stirring something that smelled like rosemary and lemon. The air was lighter, and so were we. I planted a garden, she told me as I came in. Doctor says it helps with my balance and the sunlight's good for my migraines. How's the treatment going? She smiled. Better. The meds help, and I stopped hiding from my own body. That's something. I hugged her. That's everything. Dad walked in with a bag of groceries. You're just in time, I got your favorite, blueberry pie. Trying to butter me up. I teased. Always, he said, and the smile he gave me felt real, not performative like Christmases past. Ashley came in a few minutes later, wearing jeans with paint stains and a Brewers t-shirt. She looked happy. Grounded. How's the job? I asked as we set the table together. It's amazing, she said. I never thought working for a brewery would be my dream gig, but they let me design all the seasonal labels. They actually value my weird creativity. You still painting? Only for joy. Not for rent. I nodded. That's the best kind. She glanced over at me. You okay? It was an honest question now. No jealousy. No performance. Just concern. I'm getting there, I said. The promotion helps. So does this. She touched my hand. We're lucky to have you. That hit harder than expected. I blinked fast and smiled. We sat down for dinner. Real food, real conversation. We talked about Mom's next appointment, Dad's new job as a construction manager, my upcoming client meeting. And then, after the plates were cleared, Dad brought out a folder. The condo sold last week, he said. Final closing was Friday. We all paused. The finality hung in the air. How do you feel? I asked Ashley. She took a breath. Relieved. That place represented too much. Pressure. Secrecy. Guilt. I want my next home to be built honestly. Mom reached into a drawer and pulled out a new binder labeled, Family Fund Emergency Planning. We made a pact, she said. We created a shared account. Nothing fancy. But it's a start. Clear rules, clear communication. Dad nodded. Woo, even drafted a written agreement. So expectations don't become assumptions. It was the most logical thing I'd ever seen my parents do. And the most loving. Later that night, Dad pulled me aside on the porch. Fireflies blinked in the garden Mom had planted. I never thanked you properly, he said. You did, I replied. No, not just for the mortgage. But for waking us up, for forcing the truth out of all of us. I shrugged. It wasn't graceful. But it was real, and that's what we needed. He hugged me. Not the stiff half-pat hug he'd given for decades. A full embrace. One that said, I see you now. As I drove home, I thought of that phrase he'd said. You'll understand someday. He had meant it as justification. But what I came to understand was something different. That families are flawed. That love doesn't always look like hugs or praise or equity. Sometimes love is saving a house no one knew needed saving. Sometimes it's selling the one you thought was yours. Sometimes it's just staying at the table when every instinct tells you to walk away. But when honesty enters a room, healing begins. And that, more than any gift, was the legacy I had been waiting for. It wasn't the house. It wasn't the key, the mortgage, the money, or even the years of unspoken resentment. The real gift that Christmas had been the reckoning. 6 months after the snow settled, we had found our rhythm again, not by forgetting what happened, but by honoring it. We still had work to do. There were habits that hadn't disappeared overnight. Mom still sometimes assumed Ashley needed emotional check-ins more than I did. Dad still offered unsolicited advice to Ashley but stayed quiet with me. But now, when I pointed it out, they listened. We laughed more, shared stories without competing for sympathy or praise. We had family dinners once a month, alternating houses. Sometimes we played board games. Other times we just sat on the porch and talked. Ashley was thriving in her marketing job. She'd even picked up a freelance design gig for a local nonprofit. "I'm making rent," she said once with a smirk. "All by myself. No art school drama, no crying in stairwells." I was proud of her. And for once, I think she was proud of herself too. As for me, I'd been promoted to senior financial advisor at my firm. Not because I saved a house, but because I'd proven I could guide others through the kinds of storms I'd weathered myself. Apparently lived experience counts now, I joked during the announcement. But privately, it meant the world. Because I no longer needed their approval to feel whole. But when I got it, when my mom looked at me after dinner one night and said, "You are the glue that held us together," I let myself receive it. No deflection, no humility, just truth. That Christmas had cracked everything open, and what poured out was messy, painful, and human. But beneath all of that, love, a kind of love that no key could ever unlock. One evening in late summer, Ashley and I sat on the back porch of our parents' home, sipping iced tea while the crickets chirped. "We never used to do this," she said, glancing at me. "Just sit." "Yeah," I nodded. "We were too busy being characters." She smirked. The struggling artist and the perfect daughter. I hated that role. I admitted, I hated mine more. It was the first time we had ever openly acknowledged what we both had known but never dared to say. That for years, we weren't really sisters. We were competitors in a silent war neither of us had wanted to fight. "I used to think you had it all," she whispered. "Confidence, stability, your own place, a future." "I used to think you had it all," I said. "Attention, emotion, the freedom to fall apart and still be loved." We looked at each other and laughed. That kind of laughter that only comes after tears, after confessions, after wreckage. "You know what's funny?" I said. "I spent years trying to prove to Mom and Dad that I didn't need them. And I spent years making sure they'd never leave me." I reached over and took her hand. "We're a mess," I said. "A functional one," she replied. And it was true. For the first time in our lives, we were navigating each other not as shadows of what our parents saw, but as real women, real sisters, with separate paths and shared scars. Inside, our parents were washing dishes. The clinking of plates was no longer background noise. It was a comfort. "I used to dread coming home," Ashley admitted. "Now, I look forward to it." "Me too." We sat in silence for a while, watching the last of the sunset bleed into the sky. And in that quiet, I understood something that had eluded me for years. Love isn't about rescue. It's about recognition. To be seen. Not just for what you lack or what you achieve, but for who you are when you're not performing. That's the kind of love I want to keep building. In this family. In every relationship I have going forward, and if you're still waiting for that moment. For someone to see you beyond your role. I hope this story helps you believe it's possible. Because someday comes faster than you think. This story didn't end with a perfect bow. There was no moment where everyone stood in a group hug and the music swelled. What we had was better. We had truth. We had uncomfortable conversations, messy repairs, and the courage to admit we had hurt each other. Not out of malice, but out of fear and habit. And in doing so, we rebuilt something stronger than approval or tradition. We rebuilt connection. If you've ever felt like the forgotten one, the one who held it all together, while no one noticed, I see you. If you've ever been praised for being strong, when what you really needed was someone to say, "You don't have to be today," I see you too. And if you've ever watched someone else get everything you quietly wished for, only to realize what you truly needed was to be understood, not envied, I hope this story gave you a little bit of peace. Because in the end, love isn't about grand gestures or who gets what. It's about being willing to say the hard things. To choose honesty over comfort. To love not through perfection, but through presence. If this story made you think of your own family, your own silence, or the love you still hope to receive, drop a comment. Share your moment. And if it reminded you that it's never too late to rewrite your family story, no matter how long the roles have been set, hit that subscribe button. Because sometimes, you'll understand someday, turns into today. And that can change everything.